Yesterday I said I was going to try using Christmas music, so you're probably wondering what Christmas music that was we just listened to. That wasn't Christmas music. That was the theme tune, the music that's used for what we're going to be talking about today. Now, for those of you who like sport, this is your lucky day because we're going to be talking about sports today. You see, there was a time not too long after the end of the Greek Dark Ages, which we talked about last week, that the people of Greece decided to come together in a celebration of sport and a celebration of their gods, and a celebration of the people who were the best fighters in their country, in their cities, in their areas. People of Greece decided to come together and have a contest to show off their skill and their sports and to honor their gods. The Greeks had a lot of gods. We'll talk more about them on Thursday. But the Greeks believed that their gods lived on a mountain called Mount Olympus. And so the games they had were made to honor the gods of Olympus. And so these games were called the Olympics. The Olympics. You may have heard about them. We still have them today. The music that we played at the beginning is the music that's used for the modern day Olympics, the Olympics that we have today. But the first Olympics were held in 776 BC. That means 776 years before Jesus was born. People came from all over Greece to participate in the Olympics. Now, some of you may have already heard about this. Like I said, we show them every 4 years. They were going to have, well, it's every 2 years, really. 2 years, there's 2 years we go, and then we have one in the summer. We will go another 2 years, we have one in the winter. Then another 2 years, one in the summer, go back and forth like that. We were going to have one this year in Japan, but coronavirus means it got canceled, so they're going to have it next year instead. So you can watch that on your TVs next year, and you'll know a little bit more about what they're doing. Okay? Now, in the Olympics that we have today, there's all sorts of stuff that we have. We have things like running, boxing, javelin throwing. So they try to get that spear that he's holding as far away as they can. Discus throwing, which is the same thing, trying to get that disc he's holding as far as they can. Archery. All sorts of things that happen at the Olympics. But at the original Olympics, there was just one thing. There was just one thing and one thing only. Running. Yep, that was the only thing they had at the first Olympics, was one race. One race. People came over from all over Greece to watch this race, and then they said, okay, that was fun, let's go home. But as the years went by, they started doing more things. They had things like chariot races and horse races. They even had one for trumpeters and heralds. Those are the people who go in front of their kings or whatever and say, make way, the king is coming. Yep, they even had a special Olympic event just for those people. Now, the Olympics, they went on for about 1,000 years before people stopped doing them. And then in 1896, they were brought back again. And we've had them ever since then. Every 4 years, we have a Summer Olympics and then a Winter Olympics a couple years later, and we go back and forth. At the Winter Olympics, which the plan is to have them in 2022, you get things like skiing, ice skating, gymnastics, downhill skiing, ski jumping rather, And we get all sorts of other things. But like I said, the original Olympics, all they had was running. And here's another thing I want to know about the Olympics is that only guys were allowed to go. Nowadays, anybody can go to the Olympics, and men or women can compete in the Olympics. They can do them too, but back then, you only allowed men in the audience, and you were only allowed men in the running races. Why? Because all of the athletes were naked. Yes, really. All the athletes were naked because it helped them to run faster. So women weren't allowed to watch. They weren't allowed to watch, and they certainly weren't allowed to be part of the race. But yes, the Olympics were there. It was to honor their gods and to show off how strong that their people were and how ready they were for war. That was the other big thing. By showing off how strong they were, how fast they were, how tough they were showing off that they were ready for war. Okay. So that's the Olympic Games. And we still, in the modern day Olympic Games, we still keep the same name to remember what the Greeks did, and because we like to show off. That's what sports is all about, right? Showing off that you're the biggest one, that you're the strongest one. But we still have it today. It's one of the few times where people all around the world come together in peace and just have some sports. It's a good time. I actually kind of look forward to these every year. I was kind of disappointed that they got canceled this year, but I'm looking forward to it in next summer. Okay, so that's the Olympics. Real quick, let's go over our questions for today. Question number 1 was, what is the name of the famous sports contest of Greece? And that was the Olympics. The Olympics. When did it first start? It started in 776 BC. So 24 years after the end of the Greek Dark Ages, and nearly 800 years before the birth of Jesus. And question number 3, what events were at the first games? There was only one, running. That was it. There's loads and loads and loads more now. There was only one back then. Okay, well that's all we have for today. Come back tomorrow, and don't come back tomorrow because we're not having this tomorrow. You can come back on Thursday. We will talk about the Greek gods. This is very important to the Greek civilization, and we'll talk about them tomorrow on Thursday. All right? All right. See you then.